Hey everybody. Today I'm here to talk about our brand new fuzz pedal, the Glaive. The Glaive is an IC-based octave fuzz, which is the spiritual successor to our now discontinued Obstructures X EAE fuzz. That fuzz was unfortunately a casualty of tariffs and general manufacturing bullshit of the year of our Lord 2025, but we soldier on, of course. So the nice thing about this is that we were able to slim it down and in the process add a couple of new functions. So today we're going to treat this like a fresh start. I'm going to give a overview of how the controls work, as well as some of the new features, and just kind of wax poetic about octave fuzz in general. Now, if you want a deeper dive, we have a very in-depth technical manual, which includes things like a signal flow block diagram or a very long treatise on how octave fuzzes sound the way they do. So check it out if you feel so inclined. And otherwise, we're going to dive right in. So first things first, this guitar is a Robot Graves and Dunnable collaboration that I've got on loan from a buddy of mine. I believe it's currently for sale. I'll drop some info about it in the video description, but this is a narwhal. It's kind of their like most right style. I already love the Robot Graves neck, so very few complaints about this guitar. The humbuckers are a little on the lower output side, so I'm a big fan. Great for pedal stuff. And then this is going into my Audio Kitchen Big Trees, into a Joe's TL806 cab with an Eminence EM12N speaker, and then finally an OMA ribbon mic, and that's just going into Reaper. So the first thing I want to note about this is that the Glaive has intelligent bypass switching. If you hold it down, it will register that as a press, or you can turn it on and turn it off. So that's pretty cool. You can also, there's more info about this in the manual, but you can save the state when you're powering it up, and so that it'll boot up in the always on state or boot up in the always off state, which is handy for those of you who've got loop switchers and that sort of thing. So where I'd like to start is I'm going to turn the fuzz down a little bit, and I'm going to turn the texture off and put weight at the center. And then I'm going to center both of these toggles. And turning this on, first, here's my clean tone. So starting with the fuzz at lower settings, you get this medium fuzz distortion-y kind of thing. It actually cleans up kind of well. Though, if you're buying this, the cleanup is not what you're getting it for. As we turn up the fuzz control, it's going to get pretty intense. Here it is at halfway. And here it is all the way up. So you can hear there's a little bit of noise at the upper range, which is understandable because this thing is slinging a good 80 plus dB of gain. Now, if you want to tailor the overall fuzz sound, there's two ways to do it. First is with the weight control. So if you turn the weight down, it's going to tighten things up. This is a high pass filter located at the input. And it can get pretty thrashy, especially for a fuzz pedal. Anyway, that's not so much my thing. I love how tight it is, but I just can't play like that to save my life. Anyway, if you go the other way, turning up weight is going to open up the floodgates of low frequencies into this pedal, which is going to make it sound super heavy and doomy. And if you get a neck pickup in there, it's even more intense. So if you go all the way up, not all guitars do this, but you'll get a bit of sag on a heavy note attack. So you can see just how much sustain and upper harmonic content this is capable of before you even bring in the texture control. It really is like a rich, full-bodied sound at the edge of fuzz and distortion. So some of you might be wondering, what about the high-end contouring? And this is a new feature that we introduced as part of the Glaive. This toggle on the left is going to change the low-pass contouring right at the output, and it's great for shaving off some of those harsher harmonics. I'm going to use the weight pulled back and the fuzz up a bit, and you can hear how this control tailors the high end. Here it is at full bore. In the down position, we're going to cut some high end. And then in the up position, we're going to cut a lot of high end. In these settings, I find it's nice to add a little bit of extra level to push your amp more and compensate for this sort of perceived loss of attack. So that gives you an idea. This toggle is also really helpful when you bring in the texture knob and some of the more like ripping gated stuff that we're going to get to in a bit. So you've also noticed that I have been bypassing the pedal to make room for myself to talk. This amp is pretty loud, but we wanted to add a way to gate the fuzz sound when you're not playing. And it adds a lot of dynamic controllability and general sort of tactile just versatility that was not present in the previous version of this fuzz. So the gate functions similarly to the high cut. In the down position, it's moderate, and in the up position, it is more intense. But we're calling this toggle squelch, and the reason why is that it's not a true dynamic gate. There's no side chain that's listening to your input and turning down the gain to compensate. This is misbiasing the fuzz by a precisely calibrated amount so that when you play, it opens up the floodgates. This is better shown than described, but the most important thing to keep in mind is that the fuzz control, in addition to being your gain control, is effectively setting the threshold of the gating response in tandem with the toggle. So with the toggle in the down position and the gain about here, we're going to put the weight control about halfway, and here's what we get. And already you can hear this thing is dead silent in between notes. Now, this comes at the price of some sustain, but if you're using this, especially for lead work, it's a really great way to get the noise out. This is also incredibly useful with single coil pickups. So I'm going to turn up the gain a little bit. And you still get that really tight attack. Now, if I turn up the fuzz even more, and I'm going to add some weight too, because these are kind of additive in a way. So you can hear some of that kind of more sizzly quality on the decay. Now, if I pull back on the gain, that's where you get some of those more like textural, kind of misbiased, broken, ripped speaker kinds of sounds. And there's a lot of neat ways to access that particular texture in this pedal. So that gives you a rough idea. Now, in the squelch up position, this is the most aggressive gate. And here, you really have to fight this thing to get some sound to come out. And that is, again, just a great way to keep the noise in check when you've got these really high gain settings. So finally, I want to talk about the star of the show, which is the texture control. The texture control blends in an analog upper octave, which uses a precision full wave rectifier. This is very different from your sort of green ringer or super fuzz style octaves. This is precisely folding your signal in half to generate a primitive, crude upper octave. If you're playing pure tones, this is going to give you that nice upper octave sound. But if you play anything more complicated than maybe a power chord, it will get scrambly and weird and intermodulated, and it will create new notes that you didn't know were there before. Now, this control pairs really well with both the high cut and the squelch toggles. It gets harsher, but it also adds a bunch of gain, and so it goes nice when you've got some gating in effect as well. And there's that gate in action once more. Now, one of the classic octave fuzz things to do is to use a neck pickup, which is going to get something closer to a pure tone and let those extra note products that come from the octave up process shine through more clearly. But it's dead silent in the middle. So that gives you an idea of what the texture control is capable of. And again, you can get some cooler low gain textures out of this as well. So if we pull texture down and gain down and even the weight down, because those are all very interactive with one another. So it's cool, rather than just being like a searing, nasty lead machine, it also does those more kind of textural moments as well. So that is the sum total of all the controls on this. There is an enormous amount of interactivity, so I'll leave you with this one last sort of concept to unify this pedal. Though texture, weight, and fuzz knobs are all additive with one another. Weight adds low-end frequency content at the input. The fuzz is, of course, just adding gain across the board. And the texture circuit, in adding this folded over octave up sound, is also adding quite a bit of gain on its own. And so with the sum total of these, this thing can push even more than the sort of specified 80 dB of gain, closer to like 100 dB. But again, how do you define that much gain when you're slamming against rails of an op amp? It's not really a scientifically precise idea. But I hope this gives you an idea of the Glaive. This is a pedal that is one of my favorites that we've ever made. I've been using this in my band for a super long time. I think it just really does the thing. It's one of my favorite lead pedals. It pairs great with a bunch of other distortion and overdrive effects. If you want to use this as sort of your octave up preamp into a Rat or into a Big Muff or into a longsword, into a halberd, this will do all of that stuff. And the high cut and the squelch gate toggle really are massive quality of life improvements over this. So I hope you found this demo interesting. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, I've been John from Electronic Audio Experiments. Thanks for your time. Cheers, folks.